and welcome back to the Good Talkers podcast. My name is Ashton Haugen, and I am joined today by three of the most amazing human beings on earth, and that is Deanna Cooney.
Oh, yay, thanks.
Tessa Livingston.
Hello.
And producer Jordan Greville.
Yo.
Jordan has just informed us that he has some chit-chat he would like to share with the group. So we're all waiting on the edge of our seats to hear what he could possibly have to want to share.
Yeah, so I'll keep it brief. Middle of the July, I'm going to be a dad. So that's pretty crazy. Yeah. So that's a thing. So I've just been figuring out how to do that.
Jordan's running around. That's
Congratulations.
It's a boy, cool. So it's going to be a mini-me.
Wee Jordan.
Yeah.
This is great. Congratulations.
This is
Very
cool.
cool.
A lot. This is amazing. Oh.
It's so
I was actually going to tell you
amazing.
guys last time. I was like, next time we'll do. That'll be fine.
Yeah.
Keep on the chit-chat. So,
that's
a couple
so
months to go. We're furiously painting the house, which is why I'm covered in paint. Just changing my top for the recording and go back to painting the house. But building the nest, everyone keeps telling me, but I just wanted to get that done anyway. So
It was on the list regardless.
Yeah, it's just a really good reason because it's flipping hard to do anything else except raise kids, I imagine, when you've got kids. So just trying to get all the jobs done, which is
nice.
Oh, that's so exciting. So you
So,
say July.
Yeah, middle of July, yeah. So I'll hold him up
That's close.
when he comes along. He'll be at the
Yeah.
July recording.
Get him a teeny tiny little pair of monitors. We'll put it on.
Yeah.
Cute.
Get him some branded clothes. Yeah.
A podcast baby.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Sounds we can't
hilarious.
make.
Oh my God.
Yeah, screaming.
I'm in for that. That sounds amazing. We did a baby sound a long time ago. I think it's
We
time to
did.
bring it back.
I
You know
agree.
what?
I
Maybe it
agree.
is. Maybe it is. We'll
Yeah,
wait for
yeah,
July, though. We'll wait for July. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations, Jordan.
Thank
We
you.
are over the moon for you.
So excited.
Yeah, and give Alba our love too, and tell her that we're so happy for you guys, for all of you, for
thanks.
the three of you, and little
Yep.
family.
And the dog, 4 of us. It's getting big, mate. It's getting out of hand. We got a dog so we can get used to raising something first.
Nice.
Yeah, so-
Nice. You got to practice.
Yeah. He's turned out all right, so next
The
thing.
dog's okay.
Yeah. Long may it continue.
The dog's
amazing.
all right. The human should survive. Like it'll be good.
Whether we
Oh.
survive is a whole nother thing.
That's a different
We'll be
story.
right.
We didn't say that.
Yeah. Anyway,
Oh my
that's it.
gosh. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. Oh, that's so special and so exciting. I don't even know how to follow that up because that's just like so amazing. I don't even know how to get into what we're talking about today. But now today we are talking about something very fun and a little bit unusual. Today we're talking the good talk on accents. And specifically today we're going to, as a group, try to break down a Scottish accent. I had this idea because the idea for this episode came to me recently because I was called back for a project, a theater project. And when I was called back for this project, the director had asked me if I could do a Scottish accent. And I, of course, did that actor thing that we all do, that we said, of course I can do a Scottish accent, no problem. And then you go out and you learn the Scottish accent, which is exactly what I did. I frantically called Tessa, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to learn a Scottish accent. I've got to call back by tomorrow. And I'm freaking out.
I should find the voice notes, man.
They're really funny. And Tessa really helped me develop a Scottish accent. Now, here's the thing, disclaimer. None of us are native Scotlanders. Scottish people? Scots.
Just native Scots.
We're not native. And this is not our primary accent. And so we don't claim to be experts in this accent. However, Tessa did an excellent job of helping me break down parts of this accent, especially with the specific lines that I had to say, to figure out how I could portray this accent and do this character. And she did such a great job that I actually got the part on the spot at the callback. So
Nice.
it really made me start to think about accents and how we can break them down, and how does Tessa do this, and what are the fundamental parts of specific accents that we as actors can utilize, and so that's what I thought we could do today.
Love.
Fun.
First and foremost, though, I want to just also specify that I am a person who is of European descent, so I don't feel that I having or practicing a Scottish accent is outside of the appropriateness of my abilities type of thing. There are other accents I would probably refuse to learn, especially if it's an accent that I think is a stereotypical or a caricature of a specific accent. I wouldn't do that. However, I felt that this specific accent, because of my ethnicity and where I come from, personally, I felt okay with doing this accent. So,
and I think it's really good to add on to that as well, that it's also okay to learn for fun and for practice, to do those things, to challenge your muscles, to challenge all of your sets, and then know where you use them appropriately. For example, I was working at a at National Youth Drama School, also known as NIDS. It's a 2-week holiday program for teenagers, and it was wicked. So I was teaching voice for voiceover down there, and one of the days we did accents, and we're doing much what we're going to be doing today. But one of the boys in my class, he is Māori, so he's from New Zealand, has a Māori accent, Māori culture, and he and the accent that he wanted to learn is that he wanted to learn Raj from The Big Bang Theory. So so I taught him Raj's Indian accent, and it was so much fun because it was never about putting down the culture or do anything like that. It was about how are your mechanics different to his mechanics, and how are you going to shape that? And it was a really, really fun process, and actually it was really important for the people in the room to see that. So yeah, it was really cool.
And also, it's just about expanding what you have available to you, right? In terms of muscular activation, understanding of the mechanics and how they apply, because you can practice them in one format and then apply what you've learnt to another format, right?
That's true.
And so it's not just about this is the accent that I'm doing and I'm going to only use this accent. If you come at it from the perspective of play, curiosity, how does this even work, right? And then you are conscientious about how you apply those new tools. I think that's where the real decision making needs to happen.
And I think there's also a big difference with playing around, figuring stuff out. Language is very interesting, and thinking about it and playing with it is a lot interesting. And that's a completely different context than standing up in a professional setting and saying, I represent this group of people. I think that's very, very different.
Yeah.
From a professional standpoint, where do you have you guys run into awkward scenarios where, or what's your decision making process around no, I'm not going to do that, yes I am, and if I say no, is that the right thing to do as well? I had
a tough conversation with this with a student the other day, actually. I was teaching General American at one of the schools here in Auckland, and we were talking about diversity and being appropriate for what accents you're saying. And I said what my system there is that I won't perform in an accent of a demographic that I couldn't visually fit into. That was mine. But the other side of that is that there was a student in the class who is Indian who had done a German accent for something before, because he doesn't get many opportunities in New Zealand to use his natural Indian accent, and there are Indian people who live in Germany, and therefore from that he was like, was that wrong? Was that right? And I was like, well, actually I think that's okay, because to me I'm in a demographic that gets more opportunities than others, and if you're in a demographic in a situation where you get less opportunity than others, the line of appropriateness changes. And my main thing was that if it gives you ick, don't do it. If it gives you ick personally, don't do it. Obviously, everybody's ick line is different, and do your best to figure those things out. But yeah, I think for it, there is a standard, but then there's also an individual standard as well, which can get complicated.
Yeah, I think there's general approaches that we want to be really conscious of and take into consideration at all times, especially when we come from a privileged space. It's very, very important that you understand what your privilege is and how that impacts the decision-making process. And then on a case-by-case basis, it's highly subjective.
Yes. Yeah.
It is. And that's why I said this was an accent I was willing to learn. Like, I'm not going to put that on anybody else, but I need to evaluate, okay, is me doing or learning this accent appropriate? And it's not only that, but I'm using it in a professional setting as well, saying that I do identify or could identify with this group of people. So I'm okay with that. And I'm also of like Irish descent as well. And so like I was okay with learning an Irish accent, which I have for productions before. So yeah, good conversation. I love everything that was said.
Something that Jordan asked when he asked that question before was like, is saying no the wrong thing, right? That's a really, really interesting thing to consider as well, because again, it depends on your circumstances, right? Like if this is a paying job and you need the income, right? That, like, your survival probably factors higher than factors higher than ick levels and generalized kind of approaches to things. You know, like, it's really challenging to know, especially early in your career, it can be incredibly challenging to say no to something on a moral or values-based kind of standpoint, when the money is really important to you, the exposure is really important to you, the relationships and connections that you build doing this work is really, really important to you. All of these things are career-building opportunities. And so learning how to navigate that stuff is a big part of becoming a successful person in this kind of environment, right?
But I'm going to play devil's advocate and say, at the same time, not being able to say no to the wrong opportunity can do the opposite, can tear down a career and can hurt you and can destroy connections. And so like it is a personalized, like, case by case thing. Like, you're just going to have to think about it, think about what you're okay with, find your own boundaries and your ick level, and really think
understand
about
the culture and the space that you're operating in, and so
your
it
own privilege
takes looking,
and
it takes looking outside of yourself as much as it takes looking inside of yourself, I reckon, to make these kinds of decisions. You know,
definitely.
And that's a skill set that you develop over time as well. But you
100%.
know, if this is a thing that's coming up for you as a performer, lean into, like, go find mentors, go find people who have done what you're trying to do, and ask them to help you make the decision if you need it, or help you think through or talk through the process, you know?
How often does it realistically become a problem? Because the people casting for the roles are obviously aware of all of the things that we've talked about. So how often are they asking somebody who clearly isn't or shouldn't be doing that specific accent for whatever reason? How often have you seen it where, like, in a movie or something, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel very right, or has it damaged anyone's careers that you know of? Or
it used to happen a lot more than it happens now, right? There's been a massive shift over the last 5 to 10 years, really probably focused in the last 5 years. It's been huge. So many changes that are, like, they're broad sweeping industry-wide changes across screen, across voice, across stage, across everything that is performative, I guess, and probably lots of other spaces as well. You know, the whole DEI thing has just gone, has been a really, really big thing, right? So it happens a lot less now. And I'm really interested to hear what Ashton has to say about this, because she's been cast in that environment. My experience of it is the way it happens in kind of commercial spaces or in screen acting, right? And it just is diminishing enormously. People are way more conscious of that. So the requests that come out aren't like that anymore. They're not asking people to do things that are inappropriate, and when they do, that shit gets cut down fucking fast and real hard by the people in the community as a general rule. So if someone new comes in and goes, I'm casting this film, or I'm casting this voiceover job, and this is what I want, but I'll only accept people from here, or like whatever, like if it's framed in a way that doesn't fit the standards, look out, you're going to get shot down really, really fast. But Ashton, what's it like from inside the casting environment?
So I actually ran into like a little interesting situation. And this was, I want to say, maybe about a year-ish ago, sometime around there. I had been working with a company for character voices, and this company had a lot of trouble finding specific voices to authentically fill some characters. And one of those voices was a Indian, not Native American, but like Indian from India. We get those confused or mixed up here in America. And so he was looking for an actor of Indian descent, a male actor of Indian descent, to help. And also he was looking for somebody with Japanese descent. I had suggested someone who I knew who was somewhat racially ambiguous. And the thing is that I was okay putting this person forward, suggesting them, because one, I don't go around just asking what people's ethnicities are. So I thought that if I approached this actor, I gave him the specs and he said, yeah, I'm up for it, and then I could pass him along. I thought, hey, if he doesn't fit these things, he would say no. Well, it turns out that didn't happen. He said, yeah, I'm up for it. I passed him along. And then he refused to do the role because he said he didn't fit that ethnic profile. And then they were upset with me for suggesting him.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I was like, well, here's the thing. I passed it along to someone who, one, is kind of ethnically like ambiguous to me. I'm not sure what his ethnicity is. I thought he could fit almost like either one of those or both, to be quite honest. But I'm not sure. I don't ask people that in general. Like, that's not something I go around asking. Two, I knew he's a really good actor, and I wanted to give him opportunities because I really genuinely liked him, and he's a very good actor. And three, like, it's not, I was just passing along the message. Like,
it's his responsibility anyway.
It's his responsibility, not mine.
Yeah.
So it was kind of an awkward situation. I apologized and I said, hey, I didn't know. He said he was up for the role. I had, like, he would do it. I'm so sorry. Yeah, but it was still, not strained, but it kind of put a little bit of
muddied the waters
on the relationship. I still work with them, so like it's fine. There's nothing wrong, but like there's still that little note of something that's there. Maybe that's in my head, but it just like kind of feels that way.
Yeah, it is really different in casting from the other side now. We get very, very specific briefs. Very specific briefs. We know exactly what they want. And if they don't know what they want, they just use the phrase open casting, and then we fill it with, and when we're like saying it to our talent and things like that, they're saying open casting. They're a company from this country. Use one in your natural accent and one in an accent that you think fits. You know, so you give the actors a little bit of onus to use what's naturally theirs as well as other things that they can do. But yeah, it's really interesting because we're in this. How do I want to phrase that? Because there's been whitewashing for a long time across a lot of things, but now we're getting into the space of diversity hires not going well either. So, putting someone of a different ethnicity or culture into a space where that wasn't necessary, and then it not landing well with the audience, and it having to be, so it's just important that people really think about who they're choosing, why they're choosing them, and how it fits where things are going. And like, it just fits in with all of these accent things. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. It's a complicated little situation. Yes, Jordan, he's got his hand up so beautifully.
Does your like judgment or ick level change depending on whether you're seen? So like if it was just a book or an audio piece and you weren't visually like engaged in it at all and no one knew any different, then thoughts on that?
Good question.
It's a very good question. So I do a lot of audiobooks. Audiobooks have many, many, many characters. And oftentimes I am the only narrator in these audiobooks. I am the only one. So this is my personal, how I figure it out. If the main characters are people of my same ethnicity, or I can like feel comfortable saying like, yes, the way that I look can represent that culture or ethnicity. I will say yes, even if there's a couple minor characters who have different accents or are from different cultures. At the same time, I let the author know that I'm not going to do accents that are caricatures, making fun of, or are unrespectful of these cultures and these people. And that if you have a problem with that, then I'm not the right narrator for you. So I'm saying this is my voice. These are the types of characters I can do and are willing to do. And if that doesn't work out, best of luck to you. But I kind of put that forth in the very beginning, that I'm not going to, that I have certain boundaries. And part of that is before I even start recording, I'm going to read the whole book and make sure I understand who these characters are and understand what is asked of me, and that I can rise to the occasion and complete the job. If I got way into a book and I didn't read it, and then halfway through there's an accent in there that I'm not comfortable with, and I didn't read the whole book first, that's on me. Like, that's not a good look for me. So you got to do your research beforehand. But if that's the case, then I will, if it's like a couple lines or a minor character. If it's not, and it's a main character, then absolutely no, then I'm not the right person for that job.
Yeah, and in the commercial space, never would I do that. Never, ever, ever would I use my voice to represent something that I am like radically not. And radically isn't even the right word, but like there's like I will represent all sorts of different types of people, you know, but if I'm doing an accent, it has to be something that is reasonable to like attach to myself for all the reasons we've already talked about, right? And also I have to be able to sound like it's real.
Yeah.
Like I won't do caricature accents, you know. I've never actually had to do that in the commercial space, but also like it's really interesting because even within an accent, there can be caricature versions of an accent.
100%.
Right? Like you can be disrespectful of your own accent.
That's true.
Happens all the time.
That can happen too, right? Like piss takes are a thing, you know? So yeah, but I would not, just because people can't see me, misrepresent
Totally.
something.
I'm the same.
I just wouldn't. I once read for a political party that I don't align with because I had said no to it for years and years and years. Like 20 years of my career, I'd been saying no to political ads that didn't align with me, right? And saying yes to the ones that did, right? So still doing them. And a few years ago, I got offered this thing and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot, see how it feels, see what it's like. And it was the ickest of ick. Yeah. It was so bad. So I already know what it fucking feels like when I do something that doesn't align with my values and I think sits outside of what's appropriate, responsible, respectful, right? So like, yeah, I'm just not up for it. It feels gross for me. And I also just think it's super bad form and it sets you up as someone who's not ethical, I reckon.
Yeah,
and
hugely.
for me, it's a professional standard, you know, to be ethical in how I do my work. This is a career.
Agreed.
This is my fucking life's work to an extent. Like it's one part of my life's work. And I wouldn't want to undermine that, the value of that and the relationships that I've built and the reputation that I have just for a job.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%. I think that sums it up actually really well. That's a really good way of looking at it. This isn't just a one-time shot or like a fly-by-night thing. Like this is, I want to have longevity in this, and I respect it enough to, you know, do the appropriate, responsible, you know, all of that stuff, respectful.
And
thing.
even before it was a thing, even before it was like a big deal, I was saying I have always and would always say no. Do you know what I mean? So it's like it's not just about like what's the industry suggesting is appropriate. Like we're all operating from a space of like ethical, values-based professionalism, you know?
I do want to add to that though, because I love that you've always had that. I have not.
Ah.
I'm from an area of the world that doesn't have a lot of diversity. There's not even a large population of people. So
Yeah.
I found as a young person, found the specified uplifting of another culture, like, well, why don't they care about me? Like, I didn't have that understanding of all
Got
of
it.
that different. So it took me quite a long time to start understanding how to manage these thoughts and feelings as they pop up, because you're absolutely allowed to have your natural response to your places of where you've grown up and how you've dealt with things and all of that sort of stuff. When you know better, do better. So so I haven't always had that. I've never done anything that I would classify as inappropriate, because I've just never been, cast in those things or anything like that. But if I had been in my late teens, early 20s, I might have.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Same.
And
Yeah.
I would agree with me as well, right? Like I know that if I'd been presented with, I was presented with these opportunities when I was younger, and while you were saying that, I was like, you know what? In my 20s, I reckon I tiptoed over that line every now and again. I reckon I dipped the toe in the other side, and that's how I got to the place where I got to like build my own standards around how I behave ethically and stuff. I think it's an important part of the process.
Tessa, I don't think you're alone in that by any means at all. I don't think a lot of people, until maybe about 5 years ago, really started to sit down and think where, what is all of this, and why is it important, and how does it affect me, and what do I, how does it affect me is not like even the right thing to say. It's how, I think a lot of events have happened in the world that have opened our eyes to a lot of things. And most of us now do know better. Yes. And we've been informed better. And so we try to do better. But I don't think that was a cultural shift in a large way, at least in my personal opinion, until about 5 years ago. Now, I know there has been cultural shifts, especially in different countries and all over the span of time. But for me and my generation, it's and where I come from, that events that have happened 5 years ago really forced me to look at these hard things and start questioning a lot of the way that I was raised and some beliefs that I had and the society I grew up in, and how does that affect me, and what subconscious things are, circling around in my head that give me bias that I wasn't even aware of, and really trying to have to like face those things. So I don't think you're alone in that. That's something that a lot of people have had to go through in the past 5 years, and we are by no means done. Like, we are still learning and still growing and still thinking and still changing, and hopefully for the better.
I think it's also pretty industry specific to an like, and by, okay, hang on, let me reframe that. Industry and like place specific, because like Ashton, for instance, you're in LA, right?
Yeah.
So you are in the epicenter of where this shit gets
100%.
made, you know? And so you're exposed to opportunities to like have to make decisions about that from for your whole career. And when the frameworks weren't in place, there was nothing to encourage you to necessarily make decisions one way or another. You have to work it out yourself and and maybe if the environment is saying this is okay, you go, oh, okay, so this is okay. Of course you do. And
that's a lot of people went through that, and
right,
you know
exactly.
What I mean?
This is what I'm saying. Whereas for me in Australia, I'm in a really small portion as well. I'm not exposed to the character kind of work, and that is where a lot of this stuff comes up, right? So it's really about what you're exposed to, where you are, and so in a lot of ways I'm probably pretty lucky. I was in an environment that supported me being able to make those decisions, because it wasn't super impactful. Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't every second job that came up I had to make this choice.
Yeah. There's so
we could talk about this forever.
We could talk about this. We probably
haven't even got into the Scottish accent. Yeah, we haven't even got into it yet.
I'm sort of thinking we should just finish up with this episode talking about this, and then maybe do Scottish on the next one.
Maybe,
well,
but this was an important topic. I feel like
this
was a really good thing that we needed to get.
We'd
out
have
there.
to change the intro though.
No, we don't. No, we don't. Not at all. Jordan had his hand up. Go, Jordan.
So, hypothetically, yeah, I've got a lot of questions.
He's got. So that's why we shouldn't change it, because we'll just put Scottish lol not in the title.
Actually,
don't
it was
listen to the
just
intro,
this.
just listen
We'll
to
just
the rest.
rope in the people who thought they were going to be learning a Scottish accent and give them a ethics and culture lesson.
And if you're still listening, those of you who got roped into an ethics and culture lesson, we'll do Scottish next episode.
Scottish
We
next
promise.
episode.
Come back, please.
Please come back.
We didn't mean to gaslight you. We're so sorry.
So
Switch and bait like hardcore. Like,
Ooh, wowzers. Jordan, ask your question.
yeah, so if it's probably only hypothetical, but if you had a situation where you didn't have to do an accent, but the content also didn't reflect your ethnic group or what you can relate to or your values, then that's kind of the last thing that I was wondering.
Ashton, your hand was up first.
Oh,
You go.
excellent.
It is.
I have a hand too, but I left it
Mine's
down because
second.
Ashton got there first.
Mine's second.
It's not just about accent. It's also like a generalized American accent can also be specified and rooted in a specific culture. But they'll use different words and they'll use sneaky words. Words like urban mean
urban gets
African
thrown around.
American.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it does.
That makes sense. Yeah,
Yes.
of course.
So they when they say, you have to be kind of also savvy and understand what these specific buzzwords actually mean to what they actually want. I do not have a very urban sound. I do not sound, even though I live I'm in a large city. I live here. I live in an urban place, quote unquote. That's not what they mean. They mean African American or street, kind of cool, that type of cultural sound. Now, I don't fit into that. So, one, if I auditioned for it, it's going to be a waste of my time because I'm not going to get cast in that. And two, it's going to be a waste of their time. I don't want to put a sour taste in their mouth. Why is this person wasting my time? They don't even fit the specs. Next.
And people remember that.
People do remember that. And so being self-aware of also those types of things, you can't just go on accent alone, because if I only read general American accent or open accent, but they wanted something that obviously sounds like a different ethnicity than me, that's I'm going to have to determine if I fit into that.
Yeah, sometimes there's keywords in the script as well.
Yes,
Or
that's what I was about to say.
Or the company that you're reading for, you're like, I don't think that suits me.
Yeah,
you
that's
can
not for
make
me.
those. Yeah, because in New Zealand ones that we get, you might get suburban would give you a style of person. Rural will give you another version, or country. So there's they put words in like that all the time to cover themselves and put the onus on the agencies to submit who they think.
All the
fits
performers.
those, all the performers to submit as well, depending on what environment you're in. But yeah, it definitely. The one when you were saying, Jordan, based off of your question, I voiced for a job I wish I hadn't have, and it wasn't on for too long, which was fine, but it was a political disagreement between myself and my friends, and when I'd done this job that I was proud of, because I was like, oh, I sound really great, and I sent it to them, they're like, why did you do that? That wasn't that's you're completely against that. How was that? So it did all of these really icky things in my internal system. And so I'm the same as you, Deanna. Now that I've done one, and I thought I was going to get paid heaps, and I didn't. So it wasn't even worth it. Because at that stage, I also didn't understand usage. I just saw the brand and went, oh, this will be a big
brand,
payout.
big money. Yeah.
No.
No.
Because it was a 3-month TVC. And actually, it wasn't even a TVC. It was a 3-month online. That's even worse. So, I will go for context as well as representation of audience. The two things that I'll definitely look at.
Yeah, and then there's also the perspective, and now here's me playing devil's advocate, right? Is these are acting jobs. So to an extent, we don't have to relate to, even be the same as the character that we're playing at all, right? So this is not broad brushstroke. If you're not like this, don't play it. at all because that defeats the purpose of voice of acting. Right?
Yeah.
Like literally,
Portraying
acting is
different
about
people
inhabiting
acting.
another person who is different to you, right? Like if all we had to do was, I mean, there are actors. Like all you have to do is watch movies and TV to like spot actors who are basically the same in every role that they play. That's because they can learn lines and like imagine themselves in different situations, but they don't
look
play a
nice.
different person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they do a good job. It's believable because it's them, right? So there's that, right? But one of the most enjoyable parts of acting is not just like some people say, oh, I get to be somebody else, and that's nice. But I actually like being me. So like being somebody else isn't the thing that I love about acting. What I love about acting is accurately portraying another person's experience of something, and another person who has different values, biases, thought patterns, emotional responses, physical responses, like is a different fucking human and has a different experience. I love nailing that. It like feels fucking excellent. And there's this like thrill that happens when you get to watch yourself and you're like, oh, that wasn't me. That shit's fucking believable. And that wasn't me, right? Or hear yourself, right? So there's parts around that are just about the joy of acting, right? And then you got to layer in the ethics on top of that.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, beautifully said. There's that old like, I forget who originally said it, whether it was like Stanislavski or like one of those acting people who said you can't judge your characters.
Yeah, 100%.
You can't judge your characters, right? So if I'm playing an evil villain, like that doesn't mean that I'm an evil person. It just means that I'm playing an evil villain. And if we only got to play the people that we're closest alike to, hopefully I'd never play an evil villain because hopefully that's not who I truly am. But I love playing the villain and I love playing the antagonist, and it is so much fun. And that's a huge reason why I love acting is I do get to be people that are different than me. And one of the reasons I love voice acting is I get to be sometimes inanimate objects or squirrels or, you know what I mean? People like the characters that are not human. And I don't identify as a squirrel. So like I'm okay with being a squirrel.
But we've personified the squirrel, so we're going to be identifying with something.
But here's the thing: depending on how the squirrel is personified, like if it's not personified, if it's just an animal, right? But even so, giving an animal a voice personifies it.
Yes.
Like getting it to speak in English, I mean, beyond the squeaky or whatever noises that the animal natively makes. As soon as you give it language, like English or any other language, right? Human communication, you personify it, and then it automatically has personality, it has a backstory, it has cultural like connections, it has all of these things. And so the moment something is given human communication skills, we have to start taking into consideration what are the other things about the human, and do we say yes to that?
And what are the other clues that are giving us about this squirrel that ensure that it is a squirrel like my ethnic background and not an urban squirrel, you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
You know, all I can hear in my head is from Cusco's squeaker, squeaker. That's all I can hear in my head. Squeaker. Cusco.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's Kronk talking to squirrels.
Emperor's New Groove. It's
Emperor's New Groove.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. Squeaker.
Well, we certainly didn't even get close to talking about a Scottish accent today.
Jordan's got another question, though.
We didn't
I do
get
have
there.
another question.
You got another question? Jordan's got another question.
Okay, one more question,
Ashton's
Jordan.
like, bro, just let it go.
No, this is interesting. And I'm glad you have questions. Like,
She
that's
probably
good.
thought you were like putting your hand up to go, guys, we should wrap this up now.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. You're like,
So, no, I wasn't. I just had more questions because I'm interested. I find this very interesting. I feel like it's circling around a bit because it goes from we love being other people, but only within reason.
Well, no, we love
within it.
being all other people, but there are some ethical frameworks that we need to operate inside of so that we don't use our privilege to negatively impact other people.
yes.
So that was my question. Tell me about these. Is these international framework? What is this thing that happened in the last 5 years? Is it a document, like a rules of engagement, an ethical paper? What is it with the VO world that says this is what you can and can't do.
I think it was further back than that, because thinking actually 5 years, that's COVID. I think if we go back another 3 or 4, does that sound right?
Somewhere
in
between
people's
5
ears?
and 10 years.
Somewhere between 5 and 10 years. I think, and I actually think it was post the Me Too movement.
Yeah.
Like just after, like people kind
It's
of like
probably
speaking
true.
up and coming forward, and then that started with a cultural revolution as well. That feels right in my head, but I can't be specific.
There'll be stuff that was happening before that is rather than gender oriented, race oriented, origin sort of oriented, you know. So I think it's been building probably for longer than not probably, like definitely it's been coming for a long time, but things changed. Yes, Ashton.
I can tell you.
Yeah,
yes, I think the Me Too movement absolutely has changed things, but I feel like that changed things way more on a gender basis.
Yeah, but I just felt like it all kind of came at that same sort of time.
Let's put women more in spaces, and let's put women more forward, and let's make women's voices more heard. What I'm talking about the 5 years ago, personally for me, and especially in the culture of America, is George Floyd. And when George Floyd was murdered. Right. That really impacted me personally as like a human being, questioning a lot of my own personal beliefs and the things that I grew up with. But really, it did create a huge cultural shift. And that right after that time is a lot of the time where we were like, we need to amplify, you know, people of color's voices. And maybe if you are coming from a place of privilege, you kind of step back a little bit. This isn't about you. You need to step back, and you need to I really like the term I'm not unracist, I'm anti-racist. Like I'm anti against these things. And in order to do that, there's only a finite amount of space. So in order for more people to be able to step into that space, I may have to step back a little bit and take up a little less space than I used to allow other people whose voices traditionally have been marginalized more, to give them the space to represent people that look differently than I do.
When did the conversation around The Simpsons and Hank Azaria happen?
That's the one that I remember.
Because that for me
was
one of the first big conversations that you got to look at and go, oh, here's an incredibly clear example of someone doing accents outside of their own, you know, cultural, racial background, all of that, ethnicity, all of that kind of stuff, right? Yeah. And that I don't know if that has even been resolved in any kind of way, or if
I think
it's still there, right?
Yeah, it is still there.
They're his voices. He made them. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it's really challenging. But that was one of the first times I heard this big conversation happen.
Yes. Also, when Jenny Slate steps down from Big Mouth, that really changed the way that I personally thought about this whole topic. And the courage that she had to say, hey, I know I took this role and I know I've been playing this role, but now I'm rethinking things. And now I'm knowing better, so I need to do better. So I'm going to step away from this role. And they found another person to fill the space. And it was if you watched that season that they did that transition, they even kind of touched on it a little bit in the show, how it was a change and they understood. And I think that they did it very, very well. And I'm glad that they did it. I think it was important that they did it. And not only they just didn't like shove it under the rug, like they put it out in the spotlight saying, hey, this is the change. This is why we're changing things. This is important to change these things. And we hope that you'll still support us. And it turns out people did. So that personally, but that also happened at the same time, right after like George Floyd. And there's this huge cultural shift around ethnicity and everything. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's really interesting. So there is no like document. There's no like this is how the industry functions and operates.
No, we just all decided.
Yeah.
Wow. So each individual's decided in their own right.
Purely democratic environment, right?
I think it's a corporational thing as well, by like having so like because these are starting to become more societal standards, corporations are having to incorporate them into their standards that they're doing everywhere else. So it's kind of like an HR thing where if you're you're doing something, a lawyer will be looking for all the ways that people could sue or fuck you over, and that is now becoming one of them. So it's all part of it. Sounds like to me it's come in at a corporate level and come into contracts and documents that way, but not necessarily like an industry wide. Our voice actors of
it's also like legally inappropriate, and well, not even inappropriate, but like legally you're not allowed to discriminate, right? And whilst this isn't, it's challenging in some ways because like the law doesn't say, hey, you have to hire people. Like you're not allowed to hire people outside of this. Like there's no law that says that. But it's sort of like links in some ways to the concepts around like discrimination and the laws that are around that. And that really is like, I don't know a lot about it, so I can't speak deeply to that. But Tess, what you said when you said corporations are putting it in through HR, it's also being represented legally in some ways.
Yes.
You know, so it's happening across society at multiple levels. Is really what I'm trying to say.
And in America, I know you all don't live this right now, but we're kind of having a lot of backlash to that in America right now. And there's a lot of people who are backlashing against that. However, I also know a lot of people that if you are a company who says, well, we no longer support DEI initiatives and we don't believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, like who could not want to believe in that? But anyways, if they come out and they say we don't believe in that, there has been kind of a cultural shift and like, okay, well then I'm not going to shop there. I'm not going to support you financially then. And there have been some companies in America, i.e. Target, who have really financially taken a hit because of that.
Wowzers.
So people are...
Power of the people. Fucking let's go.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I tell people like, you know, like especially my friends who are people of color or come from different cultural backgrounds or are have different genders or, you know, I tell them, why would you shop at a company that wouldn't hire you? Because of the way that you look or your lifestyle or your sexuality. Why would you shop there?
Yeah. And like, it's what really frustrates me, and this is something that I talk about with my friends and stuff like that as well. So like DEI is fantastic. It is so wonderful. But people are fucking dumb. There is this level of common sense that disappears with these things. DEI is important for uplifting, for getting everybody included, for doing all of those things. It's not an excuse to tick a box. So be sensible, like, and it's like the lack of common sense is the thing that pisses me off. So DEI is fantastic, but for people who don't have common sense, they think it's a negative thing. And so that's what makes me grumpy. Common sense. People need it. God. Jordan, what do you got, mate?
Last question.
Okay.
So based on everything we talked about, none of you would play a role as a man?
I have.
That you
depends on the context.
You made me walk right into that one, didn't you?
Because in Shakespeare,
I was listening.
I probably would.
Yeah.
Because
Shakespeare
in
high school, we were doing theatre, and there weren't enough female roles for all of the actors, and so we had to play male roles if we wanted to bloody be in the shows.
Professionally now.
Now, yeah.
I'm currently playing a man in a show.
Of course you are.
I forgot about that, actually. We talked about that off air. Yeah.
Is it meant to be, is the role a woman pretending to be a guy?
The role was originally written for a woman to pretend to be the male.
Well, I've played a role like that too.
It was originally written that way. And it's also a parody. It's satire. It's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be funny when I walk out on stage and I have a big, huge, giant beard and, you know what I mean, and a mustache, and I'm stomping around and trying to sound all big and brave and Scottish, by the way. So it's funny when you see me playing that role. Now, I also actually play 4 parts in that production. So 2 of them are women. One of them is a male dwarf, and one of them is like an entity. It's genderless. Technically, I think it is supposed to be a man because it's the Nazgul. Anyways, it's because they're the male kings. Anyways,
are these human
4 different
characters?
No, it's Lord of the Rings.
Oh, it's Lord of the Rings.
Okay. One of the women I play is a human female.
Okay. Yeah.
One of them is a hobbit.
Yeah.
The male I play is a dwarf.
Yeah.
And the other male I play is a Nazgul.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Good. So
yeah.
like it's like personifying animals to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But originally the role is written that way for this female to play 2 women and 1 male. And now they just threw another role in for me because, for shits and gigs.
Yeah, because we're not.
I have enough costume changes.
I think it always it depends on context for me as well. Like if I was doing a commercial VO that has a comedy bit in it where I'm a woman talking and a male talking, I could do both. Like it would depend on the styling of the scripting and what's actually happening inside those things. And so for me it comes down to context. I wouldn't outright go, oh, this is a male role, I would like to audition and be this role, please. I'd have to find out the context and why me playing a male role made sense and served the script and served the purpose of the da-da-da-da.
And when I play a male, I'm not making fun of men.
No.
To be specific, I'm not like poo-pooing on men. It's just that's how it was written because I'm short and women are traditionally shorter and I play a dwarf.
So I'm giggling in the background because I've seen a few photos of Ashton in this role and it just brings me so much joy. She emailed it to my boss at Big Mouth because she was in Lord of the Rings and she was like, would you mind like doing like a wee voice note or a video? Did she do it in the end?
No, that I'm going to remind her. But
yes,
I'm sure she will because I think
she's a very busy lady.
But
so I got an email from Ashton to my boss because I was doing the emails of her in her costume and I lost it for like 10 minutes.
I'll send photos.
Please do.
You'll be able to see. But also
best.
in audiobooks, like if I play all the parts again, and sometimes I play male and female roles, and sometimes they are both main characters, but I'm the only one narrator, and that's called I've done that type of narration in romances and things like that all the time. That's also still very industry standard in the audiobook industry. It's more cost effective to hire one narrator than to do a dual POV. And it also depends on the book. Like sometimes it's not appropriate for a book to try to have a full cast. It doesn't make sense financially. It doesn't make sense for the project. So in that case, I will also play a different gender. However, if the role is like for someone who is a trans person, I will not play that because I am not a trans person. I can't speak to that experience. So again, it is very there is no hard set of rules. I feel like Jordan wants like this hard set of rules in this document so everybody knows exactly what to do.
Right? Yeah, there's no dot points
It's just not like that. Yeah,
just
it's not
challenging
because-
everyone's quite softly.
Love it.
Because it's like I'm not going to play a trans, but I also don't identify as a man. So why am I doing man's voices?
That's
the
what
thing
I
is,
wanted
right?
to ask there too. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And it possibly isn't man's voices. It depends, right, on what it is. Like, are you playing a man and pretending fully and wholly and solely to be a man, not having none of your femaleness present in the thing? Are you able to completely adjust your voice and performance so you sound completely like a man, right? Because if we bring it back to accents, that's what you're doing when you're putting on an accent. You are trying to completely replicate that accent with all of its like cultural kind of and whatever else kind of elements intact. And so if you're playing a man in order to completely be representative of a man, that's different to playing a character that is masculine. And I don't know if that's a very good explanation, but like that's kind of, I'm trying to like get a bit granular with it.
No, I agree because also I'm not trying to fool the audience into thinking I'm a man.
Yeah.
The audience who buys this audiobook understands that I am a female narrator putting on a man's voice to tell the story. And when I do an audiobook, I am actually not one character or this other character. I am the storyteller of the entire work. So just like you would sit down to your new baby boy, Jordan, and hopefully read him a story and do all the character voices, it's kind of on the same context as I would do the same thing for this story in this audiobook because I am the storyteller of this entire work.
on a side note of that, Jordan, you're going to be so good at that by the end of this because we will tell you all the fucking
like
voice
You're gonna be
acts.
the
best
Yeah.
story reader ever.
Yeah, we're gonna like anytime you ring me, you want a goblin voice, I'm a help you out, man. I'm in there.
You want
I
a
want that
lady
boy to
goblin voice,
smile
Jordan.
from
You want
ear
a
to
lady
ear.
goblin voice? Tess is your girl.
I'm there. Boy goblin, girl goblin, squirrel goblin,
Non-binary
anything.
goblin.
I'm done.
Non-binary goblin.
I don't feel comfortable being the goblin unless it's a male. Thank you very much. Yeah.
This is Jordan's hard and fast line.
Yeah.
See, Jordan, you form your own lines, okay?
Your own
Yeah.
line.
All right.
Form your own
That's
line.
good. I'll stop doing what I'm
And look,
doing.
one last thing on that, right? There will always be, like, just because this is the general overarching kind of consensus doesn't mean there aren't people who operate outside of that consensus.
Oh,
there
God,
absolutely
yeah.
100% are and will be forevermore.
And our opinions and may change on this as we learn new information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe when we know better, even than we do now, we'll hopefully continue to do better. We're not finished. So even if we got something wrong in this podcast or said something that, wasn't appropriate or disrespectful, then hopefully we will learn from it, change in the future, and keep fixing it forever. Like, we're never done as human beings. Like, we're never done cooking. We're always still, like, cooking and changing and growing and forming new thoughts and opinions, hopefully for the better. So,
Yeah, and the things that we find respectful and disrespectful change because they're 100% based on our own judgments and biases and experiences, right? So as soon as you have a new experience and it's a big enough experience that changes you a bit, suddenly your perspective on the world is different. And that can happen in a moment,
Yeah.
So I agree with you, Ashton. I don't think and that's why this isn't a set of guidelines. This is why it's not dot points, because it's ever evolving, right?
Yeah.
And you can't define it because we have to define it moment by moment. And it's not just us, it's context and all of the other people involved in the process as well. So when you're representing humanity, which is what we do as performers, we represent humanity, and humanity is always changing. We have to be always changing as well, not just in how we perform, but how we make decisions about how we engage with the process of representing humanity.
and what a privilege that is, like,
Oh,
to
mate.
be able to do that. What a privilege.
Yeah.
All right, kids, that's all we have time for today. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for the Good Talkers, for sticking with us through this roller coaster of an episode that we didn't even know was going to be
Was
this
gonna
episode
happen.
when we started. But we appreciate you sticking around for it if you made it this far. If you would like to reach out to us, we would love to hear from you. You can always reach out to us on our socials. We're on Instagram. We're not on Facebook still. Maybe never will be again. We don't know yet. TikTok, or the best way to reach out to us, honestly, is through our email. And that's thegoodtalkerspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you have thoughts or feelings or stories about this particular topic, let us know.
Please share.
Because, like we said, it's an ever-evolving topic, and chances are we might return to it someday in the future. But we love you very much and appreciate you, and thank you for listening. And we will see you or hear you in the next one. Bye.
When we talk about Scottish.
Bye. Oh, yes.
We'll talk about Scottish then. Stay tuned.
Not, who
Stay
knows?
tuned.
See you guys.
Bye.